Welcome to the Heavy Spoilers Show. I'm your host Paul, aka the Phantom Menace to Society, that's here to break down episode 15 of The Bad Batch. I really can't believe that it's been that long, but we're in the endgame now, and the penultimate entry has a lot of Easter eggs, hidden details, and things you missed that hint towards what's going to be happening in the finale. Obviously there's full spoilers for the series in this video, so if you haven't had a chance to check it out, then go look at some other breakdowns. Yes, it's been 15 weeks, but if you've been with us the whole time, then smash the thumbs up button and make sure you subscribe so you don't miss next week. We're gonna be fun. Now with that out of the way, thank you for clicking this, yeah? Let's get into the Bad Batch. Now last week saw Project War Mantle come into full effect. This was an operation carried out by the Imperials that slowly shifted their army away from relying on clones, and instead the Empire began relying on enlisted citizens. Yesterday, Disney announced that we would be getting a second season of the show, and this episode leaves it so that the clones are pretty much all but destroyed. I'm not sure exactly who wrote this on one of my videos, but shout out to the commenter who did, and they said they think there'll be a big Order 66 but for the clone troopers, so give yourself a pat on the back if that was you. And just do it. You know what, if it wasn't you, just give yourself a pat on the back anyway. You deserve it. Also, kick me in the face as I missed Scorch in last week's episode, after banging on about how good Republic Commando was for about 20 minutes. Now the episode itself centered around the Batch rescuing Gregor for Captain Rex, and though the operation almost went off without a hitch, Hunter was captured at the end and forced to come face to face with Crosshair. That should have you fully caught up now, and it leads instantly into this new episode. Now Return to Kamino starts off with the Imperial forces travelling through hyperspace. This framing device has been how a number of episodes have opened with the Batch, but its usage here shows the dark path that Hunter is on. Crosshair takes Hunter's comms device, which is based on the newer model that we saw in A New Hope. The original one used in the prequel trilogy was actually a repurposed women's razor, and this switch up shows how the tech will come to be in the original trilogy. Hunter says they'll know it's a trap, but as Crosshair rightly states, they'll come for him because of their loyalty. Kamino is of course an important location, as it's not only where they were created, but potentially it's also the place that they could die. After the Cad Bane episode, Omega stated that going back there was her greatest fear, and Hunter promised that she'd never have to. However, due to his capture, she must return, and this very much plays into the notion of travelling into the belly of the beast, which pulls from the hero's journey story archetype first popularised by Joseph Campbell. This involves a hero being plucked from their home, getting a mentor, and then travelling into a location that transforms them. It's something that's been used in the majority of Star Wars properties, and that death of a mentor bit could spell doom for Hunter if they stick to this arc. We return to Ord Mantell and learn that Gregor has been dropped off with Sid, so I'm guessing that unless he pops up in Season 2, that last week's episode will be the final time we see him before Rebels. Might also show up in the finale, but you never know. Now shoutouts to Simon A. Berman on, you guessed it, Twitter, for pointing out that Gonki is back after his sacrifice last week, but that he's now being used to rest a toolbox on. You bloody idiot Gonki, you're useless. Now due to last week's confrontation, the ship is badly damaged, but they fix it up and track Hunter to Kamino, which we can now see is completely overrun by Imperials. The music also pulls directly from the Kamino score used in Attack of the Clones, and I have to say I love this setting due to the weather conditions. There's such a darkness to the planet, but there's also some contrast to this when we pass into the corridors and see the beaming bright lights. For me, it's one of the coolest settings in the Star Wars saga, and come the end of the episode, I was a bit emotional. Now we learn that enlisted citizens are fully overrunning the clones, and this shift was seen in the introduction of TK numbers over the CC ones. We can also see Stormtrooper uniforms, which look like they're based on the original designs by Ralph McQuarrie. Rampart greets them and discusses Ryloth, and Omega brings up the location's name, which is Topoka City. She knows of a secret landing pad, and as we theorize, the location is destroyed at the end of the entry. During the Cad Bane episode, there was of course a rundown counterpart to this, which existed in the clouds. We learned that the operation there had been destroyed due to a critical core issue, but that there was an escape pod which might be showing up next week. The atmosphere is so tense, and I'm surprised that nobody said they didn't have a bad feeling about this. The Batch use a hidden platform that requires you to be close to it, and they sneak inside through a tube system located beneath the city. This reminded me a lot of the scenes in Empire, and the tunnel they travel down looks a lot like the one that Luke falls into after facing off against his father. There's also flashes of the Gungan city here from Naboo, and it's such a cool moment that perfectly builds tension towards what's to come. They arrive in Nala Se's lab, which is hidden from the majority of those in Taboka City. We learn that this is where they develop the deviant clones that all have certain mutations put in place in order to improve them. Last week we theorized that Nala Se would end up going to work on cloning the Emperor as well as Snoke, and I think this scene which discusses her expertise just about confirms it. The major experiments are carried out there, and Omega says that she was there when the batch were created, and I took this as meaning that she's actually older than they are. Now you could take it that she means she was just part of this room too, but I kinda lean more into the former theory, as that's way more interesting of a twist. Me and Simon the old boy, we were talking about this, and decided that if she looked over them growing in the tanks, then it makes sense why she was so desperate to meet them in the first episode. The full system has been wiped out, and we see that AZ-345-867-69 is still there, who you might recognise from the first episode. Yes, I'm very immature. We learned that he ended up hiding after the TK troopers ushered everyone there onto transports, and that the only clone left is Crosshair. They actually use his original designation of CT-9904, which shows that he's now viewed as a number rather than as an individual. Jump in me grave as fast, would ya? Taking me bloody uniform. And at this point the clones are now in the minority rather than being the majority. The batch go looking for Crosshair, and Omega is told to wait behind and contact Rex if things go south. He of course will no doubt be popping up for the finale, and the character definitely owes them one. She does take a different strategy, but I think they're clearly setting up his return, and that he will potentially show up next week, maybe even with Ahsoka. They shoot up into the training arena, which was of course where they demonstrated their skills in the first episode. It's a trap though, and Crosshair has lured them there. Omega ends up launching the Dark Troopers, which were used for training, and you might remember these soldiers as being part of Moff Gideon's forces in The Mandalorian. Hunter rightly tells Crosshair that the Imperials are phasing out the clones, and we get a big theory about him confirmed. We've often discussed in videos how we believe that his chip didn't really work and that it malfunctioned. We said that Crosshair simply chose to be part of the Imperials because that's what his values align with, and we discover that his chip was removed a long time ago. The burn marks on his head hid the scar, and it's nice to have this basically hiding in plain sight for a lot of the season. Now he believed that the batch stood for the order that the Empire would bring, and that is what they were fighting for the whole time. Crosshair feels betrayed because those he was loyal to left him behind, and thus he aligned with the Imperials as they were what made him feel useful. He's one of the best soldiers in the galaxy right now, and he gives them the choice to either join the Imps as his brothers or to die. Crosshair murders the rest of the elite squad in an amazing hole-in-one, and Omega is caught by the final member. Crosshair orders her to be sent off-world, however AZ arrives and saves her. Now there are theories that this elite squad member is actually Iden Versio, but the timeline doesn't really match up as she would be a child at this point. However, it is possible that it's her mother Zihei, who did serve for the Empire. I know there's other characters it could be too, so if you have any ideas then let me know below who you think it is. Now once the droids ambush everyone, Crosshair ends up fighting alongside his brothers, and the Star Destroyers end up raining fire on the location. We learn from Rampart that the cloning tech is now under Imperial control, and Tarkin says he may fire when ready, which the character of course repeated during the Death Star's attack on Alderaan. As always, the batch are stuck in Alderaan places, and they're completely unaware of what's about to happen. Hunter holds a gun to his brother and tells him to forget the Empire, but Crosshair refuses, and this is when he reveals the truth about the chip. Hunter ends up stunning them and they try to escape, but that plan is very short-lived. Now it's crazy watching the Kamino facility, which was so full of life, abandoned, and the place is absolutely decimated from the sky in one of the most impactful moments in the series thus far. We don't know if the batch survive, and it leads to one of the darkest endings thus far. We don't get any music in the credits, and it left me desperate to find out what happens in the finale. Now obviously, they will survive, and I think they'll end up teaming up with Crosshair in order to escape. They might even reach out to Rex to come save them, or use the escape pod that we know exists on the platforms. The Empire have just betrayed Crosshair and shown what they're really like, and though he thought he was valued, as we know from our jobs, no company will ever love you as much as you love it. Just go self-employed, yeah? Go self-employed like the batch, you'll thank me later. Now overall, very solid entry that does its job in just knocking all the dominoes down and getting me really excited for what's going to come next week. I will be back, but until then, obviously I'd love to hear your thoughts, so make sure you comment below and let me know. We're also running a competition right now and giving away 3 MCU box sets on the 30th of August, and all you have to do to be in with a chance of winning is like the video, make sure you subscribe with notifications on, and drop a comment with your thoughts on the entry. We pick the comments at random at the end of the month, and the winners of the last one are on screen right now, so message me on Twitter at Heavy Spoilers if that's you. If you want something else to watch, then make sure you check out our breakdown of the Venom trailer, which will be linked on screen right now. We've gone over the entire thing from top to bottom, so it's definitely worth checking out if you want to know more about that movie. With that out of the way, thank you for sticking through this video. I've been Paul, and I'll see you next time. Take care, peace.